Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the Lazo B, another Black Friday ship, and one that I had just a couple of amazing games in recently. So this is a tier 7 cruiser, and it's got like tier 10 cruiser range. It's kind of ridiculous. This spotter plane here, you get 5 of them, and they have a 5-second cooldown, 10-second cooldown, something like that. So you almost always have this ridiculous range, and it really allows you to play in these up tiers against tier 9s really, really well. So we're going to burn down this Iowa rather quickly. This thing has pretty decent fire chance and reload, and combining with that range, it allows us to play in these matches a lot easier. Been also trying out some of the other tier 7 cruisers on the Black Friday list, like Atlanta, for example. And that thing is very difficult to play these days. The lack of range and the shell velocity, it's just very, very difficult. Whereas the Lazo here feels very comfortable to play. It is very squishy though. Keep in mind, this ship does have a gigantic citadel, no armor, its turning radius is terrible. So if you are caught broadside, you're gonna eat a ton of damage and maybe even just get one shot. But if you're able to play it around islands, trying to stay dark as much as you can, not getting yourself into crossfires, angling most of the time, you're gonna do pretty well. This Iowa here damage conned one of our fires there, and then, yeah, we get ourselves a triple fire as he's going dark. So, yeah, we're 24,000 damage now, and it's all the way up to 43,000. Fires are very powerful against battleships. I'm sure we all know that, but this poor Iowa here is actually going to burn out to those fires. And we're a tier 7. That's against a tier 9. It's a very, very powerful ship because of fires. That is an arsonist in the first 4 minutes and 15 seconds of the game on a top tier battleship. Yep, that's a little bit ridiculous. Although I will say, it does feel a little stronger against things like Iowa than it does against things like a Colorado at its own tier, since Iowa has a giant superstructure you can farm and get a lot of easy damage in on, where Colorado is pretty small and its superstructure is much smaller. A lot of the battleships at these lower mid tiers don't have that giant superstructure that's really easy to farm for a lot of these cruisers. So in a weird way, you actually want the up tiers in the Lazo. At least that's kind of how I've been seeing it, if your goal is to farm a lot of damage. On to our next game though, just wanted to show off how insane this thing can be at farming. We got a little bit more of a tactical game, I guess, trying to support destroyers. It's very good at this too, obviously. At closer ranges, the shell velocity is amazing. The shell velocity only feels bad at long range because you have just stupid amounts of range. At these sub 10 kilometer ranges, it's almost like railguns. It's very, very easy to hit destroyers here. And we will take the Farragut out right away. That's going to be a great asset to our team here. And there's that spotter plane again, allowing us to hit those battleships on the back line, even if they are staying really far away. It's not a problem for the Lazo, where some of the other cruisers just wouldn't get these shots, or you'd have to try and push in, play a little more aggressive. I know I am not the best person to talk about long-range HE spamming. I certainly have made a lot of videos complaining about it. I am well aware of that. Yet, this ship does it very, very well at tier 7. So if you're looking for that, this is a pretty solid tier 7 premium. In the Black Friday event, it's typically not going to be too expensive. I'm always recommending people wait for the Black Friday if they're looking to spend some money on this game. And if you're looking for a tier 7 cruiser, Lazo's probably going to be up there for you. Sure, there's going to be higher tier premiums that are going to earn you more credits, because those higher tier premiums just have a better credit multiplier all the way up to tier 9. But hey, Lazo shouldn't be nearly as expensive as some of those tier 9s. And if you aren't a huge fan of the tier 10 meta, that really high tier stuff, then mid tiers can be a great place to play. And Lazo is a very comfortable ship to have here. The key, though, really is to position yourself well. This is a ship that really doesn't want to be pushing into people. It wants to be farming things that are pushing into it. That's really the core idea here. So you'll notice I went to the A cap early on in this match and did some damage, but since our team is pushing there and has a lot of control over the A cap, I've kind of come back to our spawn to try and help out with the enemy team who's focused on B and potentially even the enemy team that's pushing through the sea cap. I really want to be accepting those pushes and trying to get damage in on people that are pushing into me. If you're the ship that's pushing in, Lazo's going to struggle. Again, that lack of armor is a very big deal. And just look at this turning radius. It is battleship-esque. It is not good. It's one of the main reasons a lot of these mid-tier cruisers can just explode to enemy battleships. Their maneuverability and armor is nowhere near the levels at higher tiers, as well as just citadels being above water. The Lazo does have an above-water citadel that runs the length of the ship. That is very rare at higher tiers. So if you're used to those higher tier cruisers, might take some getting used to. I might get dev struck a few times, but staying angled should mitigate a lot of the damage. At these ranges, I think I probably could have tried some armor piercing on this guy. I just wasn't trusting the AP fully, but we did get some decent slaps there into the shores, and I think later on I'm going to actually get some decent hits into the deGrasse at a little longer ranges. The Russian AP typically is known for having some pretty good pen, even on these 150mm guns. You don't even need the 180s that you'll get at the higher tiers to get some pretty good pen. So don't sleep on the AP. It's just that the HE is very, very strong here as well. 4 kills already, having a lot of utility for our team in this one. And this Nagato is pushing into us. This is kind of the dream, right? And here we don't necessarily need that spotter plane, but what makes this ship so nice is this situation here where you've got a battleship pushing in that you're able to farm with some high explosive, getting fires, that kind of thing, is something that you can force to happen more often. Just as a tier 7 premium, tier 7 cruiser in general, I should say, having this spotter plane for range whenever you need it, just because that cooldown is so ridiculously short, allows you to do this even on battleships that are playing further back, like that Iowa in the first game. That's why I wanted to show you guys that one. It's just how flexible this thing really can be, even though you would think it's not a very flexible ship at all on paper, given how squishy it is and how, well, just difficult it is to play a ship with such poor maneuverability, such a large ship with very little armor. Another double fire there. The fire chance definitely been kind in these couple of games here for us, allowing us to get just ridiculous amounts of damage in on battleships. I'm very excited to see what these new commander skills are coming with in the next couple of months here. Unfortunately, I think the fire damage reduction is also on the super heavy AP skill for battleships, which increases the duration of fires by 25% anyway. So it's not going to help, really. I was hoping that skill would come as a separate upgrade. It's one of the things I've wanted for quite a while as a battleship player. Instead of reducing the time that the fire is on my ship, reduce the damage per tick and leave the duration as it is. That way, we're still getting reduced fire damage to our ship, but it guarantees that damage isn't coming in, right? You've all been there playing your battleship, or cruisers or DDs, you know how it works. You have those fires on your ship, you maybe use your damage control, or it's only a single fire and you let it run out, and you're still getting some HE hitting your ship, and you're lit on fire again. So that fire reduction didn't necessarily help you out that much in those situations. That doesn't always happen, but it certainly happened to that Iowa in the beginning of this game, or this video, sorry. And quick 2 kills there, getting us our Kraken, and up over 6 kills now. But that would be an interesting way to maybe reduce the power of these fires, since they're very strong. Certainly the Lazo loves how strong fires are, so for this ship, you definitely don't want that to be a change, because fires are just amazing for damage on this thing, especially if you're not taking IFHE like I am not here. This ship only has 25mm of pen, so at these mid tiers, the 150s only get around 25. Once you get to higher tier, the 150s get 30mm pen, which is a little more comfortable. I think the idea is they want the 150mm guns without IFHE to be able to pen cruiser armor, but not battleship armor. I think that's kind of the idea behind it. So that's why the pen changes depending on the tier of the guns. There you go, that couple of citadels into the deGrasse there, a little bit longer ranges than the shores. AP's not bad on this thing. It's pretty solid, actually. But I think IFHE probably isn't worth it on the Lazo, just because you're not going to get over 32mm of pen. So for your own tier, battleships typically have 26mm of armor. Something like Colorado would have that. And so that's why we're getting a lot of shatters on something like a Colorado earlier on in this video. But not getting over 32 millimeters, the IFHE penalty for fire chance is a little too much for me to take it if we're not getting over 32 millimeters of armor, which of course is the threshold for a lot of battleships at tier 8. And sure, you're typically gonna fight against tier 7s, but we all know how up tiers feel, and if we're shattering and we've cut our fire chance in half against those up tier battleships, yeah, that's not gonna go so well. And personally, I think I'd rather have the fire chance and just be forced to aim for those superstructures of battleships and just retain that excellent fire chance. But that's gonna do it for this second game. 7 kills in this one. Pretty ridiculous number of kills there. And this is a good ship, man. It's a really quite a strong tier 7 in my opinion. But it can be punished, right? We didn't get shot at all that much. I think down to positioning, but also we got pretty fortunate that we didn't get focused down in this thing because it can die very quickly. As for the build here on the Lazo, well, I've gone with a 21-point commander just because I have them. You won't necessarily have that at tier 7, but if you're buying it as a premium, maybe you got yourself a higher tier commander. So I've gone a little something like this, getting the extra HP here from survivability experts, quite nice. I don't necessarily think you need Superintendent for the extra plane and hydro. I don't think that's necessarily going to be all that useful. Concealment expert is amazing, as is adrenaline rush. I'm going to go with heavy HE. That extra alpha damage is quite nice, although it does hurt our concealment. So you notice 13.3 here. That can feel a little uncomfortable at times, but keep in mind that spotter plane is just so nice. Top grade gunner here is somewhat useful when combined with heavy HE here. And anytime someone's within 13.3 kilometers of our ship spotted on the enemy team, we get ourselves a nice little 8% reload. A little extra DPM is nice. Even going demo expert here to get that fire chance up to 14%, it's quite valuable. Notice they do recommend IFHE. The only reason I've already explained it, but we don't get up over 32 millimeters on this thing, unfortunately. But it can be valuable, especially when combined with heavy HE. Getting that alpha damage up is quite nice, but you know, then I'm sacrificing top grade gunner or something like that. I'm also running incoming fire alert as well as last stand. Probably took incoming fire alert first, since this is a very squishy cruiser. I would like one of these two skills, priority target or incoming fire alert, just allowing me to know if somebody's going to come after me. Letting me know I need to get into a safer position than I'm currently in. The upgrades here look like this. I'm even taking the spotter plane upgrade. It's not necessary, but it can be nice. Notice the cooldown time there, 9.5 seconds. So whenever you need it, basically, you always have a 20% range buff, and that's on 17.3 kilometers of range, which is already amazing. So that's why this thing does feel quite comfortable. But then again, it is very squishy and can die very easily. 100 millimeters of armor on the Citadel is not a lot, and above water, the full length of the ship, it is gigantic. This is a Citadel from another era. Given how Citadels work in this game these days and how Wargaming makes ships these days, yeah, cruisers do not have Citadels like this very often anymore. Typically, they'll have a lot of gimmicks to help them mitigate that, like having super heals that heal 80% of your Citadel damage. Looking at you, the Pan-American cruiser line. But this thing can be very good. So if you're looking for a tier 7 premium, you know, a little cheaper on Black Friday certainly is very nice. And even though those tier 9s can be a good deal there, but they are still expensive, let's be honest. It's a lot to spend on a video game. So that's going to do it for today's video. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.